Ladies and gentlemen, it is here. Finally, it has arrived. We have gotten to 1 year old. This is our 50th episode. This is Art of MMA. I'm your host, Mike Yin. Joining me as always, I'm talking about the mechanic, Brandon Catino. Brandon, you excited? We're here. Finally, it's here.
50 episodes. Let's get to another 50.
Hopefully Brandon doesn't make me cut him off at this point, or he comes down and chin checks me. But joining us to celebrate this week, none other than Tim Wheaton. Tim, what's up, buddy?
Happy to be back. Thanks for having me, folks. Just hanging out, the usual stuff. Been a busy couple of months, but I'm happy to be here with y'all.
Well, we're glad to have you back. Of course, you can catch Tim all the time doing dope interviews. He's had Frank Shamrock. He's had Insane. He's had just a number of great interviews. He copied us and did Kung Lee, but, that's right. It's all love. Calf Kick Sports, check it out on YouTube, as well as MMA Sucker. He's always staying busy.
It's nice with the Kung Lee interview. If you don't like Kung's answers on this show, you can go on my show and hear the same answers a second time.
I know, I did. I saw them. You thought you were going to get different answers, and you didn't. You got a couple. You and your co-host got a couple different things out of them, but it was still pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's all love. It's all the community. That's one thing about Fighters First. Of course, this show is on Fighters First Network. Check out the pop-up on the screen right now. FightersFirst.shop. Get all of our latest merch. Of course, I'm rocking the Art of MMA tee. He's got the old legendary Bruce Lee tee. We got a bunch of new stuff in the shop. I do know I promised you new legendary tees, and we did have them up for a minute, but there are a little bit of hiccups in that, so we're trying to work through those, get some new deals going on, and get everything in place to get them permanently in the store. So I apologize about that. Of course, today we do have our giveaway winners from last week to celebrate. We got 3 winners picked at random from our comments last week. Unfortunately, Tim, you did not win. Brandon, you did not win either, and neither did your wife. My wife just knew she wasn't going to get picked, so she gave up. She's like, I ain't doing it. If you hear in the background, Brandon's got a little stuff going on. Of course, I got the yard people going on at the same time in mind, but it wouldn't be an Art of MMA episode 50 episodes in if we didn't have some kind of background noise, Brandon.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into the show. I know you didn't want to hear us ramble for 30, 40 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Today we're talking about a lot. Of course, later on we'll be making our picks. Tim's back to try to redeem himself, get back over 500. I'm trying to redeem myself from last week, which was brutal. And, of course, Lead Dog over there is trying to keep his spot. But we'll talk about UFC 266 later on in the episode. Of course, Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega in the main event. Shevchenko defending against Murphy. And, of course, the return of Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler, among many other fantastic fights this weekend. They don't have much competition, no Bellator, no anything this weekend. So it should be a fun night. We'll talk about Bellator 266. We'll break down those results, the return of Yoel Romero and debut in Bellator. Of course, Phil Davis. We'll also talk about UFC, Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann and that whole card as well. But first, let's go ahead and talk about it. This week in MMA, let's jump into the news. Kind of heartbreaking right off the bat. Carlos Condit, one of everybody's favorites. Him and Joseph Benavidez both retired. Carlos Condit was always one of my favorites. Joseph Benavidez, he was just always that perennial contender. Like, he was always like knocking on the door. He couldn't beat DJ. He couldn't beat Henry Cejudo. And he just couldn't get over the championship. Davis and Figueiredo, he couldn't figure that one out. Even when Davis missed weight, he still couldn't figure it out. But he beat every single belt, like every other person. Like, it's like anybody else you put in front of him, he beat. But he couldn't beat the champion. So a little sad.
Wait, sorry, Mike, I got to correct you. Actually, he did beat Henry Cejudo, but that was a non-title fight, though. Just putting it out there. Don't take away his credit.
I said champion, right?
He didn't get to fight Henry Cejudo.
Episode 50, you're still doing this to me? I said champion. Championship fights, Brandon.
But you threw Henry Cejudo out there. He never fought Henry Cejudo as a champ.
Henry Cejudo lost to DJ too, but then he turned around and beat him. And he wasn't a contender no more. He was a champ. Anyway, this is about Joey B. This is about Carlos Condit. Real quick before we carry on the rest of the news, I want to give both of you a chance to say something about both fighters. Since Brandon's already jumped in, Tim, you want to go ahead first and tell me a quick memory about each guy?
My favorite was how the UFC was trying to have Joseph Benavidez be on the other side of a Mortal Kombat fatality. So they tried it with like You remember when Demetrius Johnson tried to decapitate him, but that didn't quite work. So they got the God of War to try to decapitate him, but that didn't quite work. So I think it was good that he retired before they actually succeeded in a fatality, a Mortal Kombat style fatality, of course, not a sad one. But yeah, Carlos Condit was just an awesome kind of warrior fighter. He's hard to really summarize as he's such an everyman in what he does, right? He doesn't look overly talented in what he's doing. You can see him going through the motions, and he's just so technically sound. But yeah, he was there in every fight with some of the best wars that we've seen in the welterweight division. Probably one of the best performances against George St. Pierre with landing a head kick, but and multiple defenses of his WEC title. But yeah, he has absolutely no shame walking away from the sport at this point. He should be very proud of his career.
I gave Brandon an entire hour to talk this week, and he's still cutting me off. Of course, check out his episode on Unfiltered, which you get to see the real Brandon Coutinho, not this good guy version you see him right here. You see the real one on Unfiltered this week, so check that out. But we did talk about Carlos Condit for a second after the news broke of his retirement, but share it here with our Art of MMA fans. What do you think about Carlos Condit's his retirement and the memory of him, and of course Joseph Benavidez too?
Hey, man, Carlos Condit, man, one of my top 5 all-time favorite MMA fighters. Saying definitely was somebody that I was looking up to, when I was really getting into the sport. He was just like Tim said, just that everyday guy. I don't care what the haters say. He beat Nick Diaz 3 rounds to 2, and he did beat Robbie Lawler. He should have been the champion, not Robbie Lawler. But hey, man, that was still one hell of a fight against him and Robbie Lawler. That was fight of the year. That was fight of the night. That was round of the year as well. His fight with Robbie Lawler. And Joey B, man, just kind of like Demetrius Johnson, man. He was doing it big. In a weight class up above at 135 in the WEC, and then boom, he comes to the UFC. He's still wrecking shop at 135, and then he dropped down to 125, and he was still a monster. So I mean, he was doing big things, and for a while he was doing it outside of his weight class. So shout outs to him, shout outs to Carlos Condit, and best wishes to their future endeavors.
Absolutely.
They didn't get released, Brandon. Damn. Future endeavors is not wrestling. They retired. They walked off into the sunset.
Yeah, bro. Well, I mean, they're still gonna do something after retirement. Like Carlos Condit is gonna. I think he's grappling at the next SUG event. So man, best wishes to him and
I can't with this guy. I don't know if we're going to make another 50 episodes at this rate. All right, let's get on with the rest of the news. Of course, speaking of Joey B, he's the perfect segue for both next 2 news stories. It's announced Mighty Mouse Demetrius Johnson. He's going to be fighting Rodtang in a special event for one. I'm actually super pumped about this one because anybody knows, was it like the first one on TNT they did where Rodtang was kind of like the last fight that nobody really knew what was going on because the production was so out of sync. With that whole first episode, Rodtang puts on a show. Whenever he steps in foot of a cage, a ring, doesn't matter. Rodtang's like 125 pounds of dynamite. This kid goes ham, and he goes after anybody. He's the perfect example of a Muay Thai fight. This guy is just non-stop. Of course, Demetrius Johnson's one of the best ever in the sport of MMA. So they're going to have a mixed fight. One round's going to be Muay Thai, one round's going to be MMA. And they're going to go back and forth for 4 rounds if it makes it that far and see who wins that fight. So it's going to be happening at 1X on December 5th. And then we were just speaking to Davis and Figueiredo with the whole Joey B story. Him and Brandon Moreno official for their trilogy, December 11th at UFC 269. I don't know if I'm so excited for that one after the first fight had me super hyped for the second fight. The second fight left me wondering Davis and Figueiredo needs to go figure some stuff out. Because Brandon Moreno is going up and Davis is kind of just staying where he's at, which is better than almost every other person in that division. But if Brandon Moreno is getting that much better every time he fights, that's a problem for anybody.
Can I jump on the mixed rules one quick on the mixed rules tip?
Yeah, go for it.
So back in the day, they tried a mixed rules fight with Bob Sapp and Jerome Lebanier. So the first round was kickboxing, and they wore kickboxing gloves in it. And then the second round was MMA. So in between rounds, they were trying to pull the gloves off and then quickly get the gloves on. And it was a cool concept, except it's Bob Sapp. So the first round, he was just turtling the whole time. And the second round, he just goes for diving takedowns because Jerome Lebanier knows absolutely nothing about mixed martial arts. So yeah, it's not a new concept, but I'm really excited for that one. That's the Rodtang and DJ. That's going to be hella fun.
Any episode where there's a Bob Sapp story is always a winner in my book because it's always a beautiful disaster. Let's call it that. It's just a beautiful disaster when it comes to Bob Sapp. And I'm not even sure if he didn't tank half the fights he lost. I don't know. Bob Sapp's a trip. And to quote Tommy Toehold and get Bob Sapp mad at us again, Bob Sapp, Bob Sapp, Bob Sapp, Bob Sapp, Bob Sapp, Bob Sapp. That's my imitation of what Bob Sapp got mad at Art of MMA for years. All because of a cartoon character.
Fair enough.
Let's finish up the news real quick. It's supposed to be quick news, not long news, so let's get back to it. Adrian Yanez been on a skyrocket in the UFC lately. He's fighting Davey Grant on November 20th. Rafael Assanio versus one of my favorite fighters, Ricky Simone, back in action December 18th. Chris Mutino, he didn't get hurt. He didn't get damaged by Sean O'Malley, but he got hurt in training. So he's out. He's injured. Jonathan Martinez is going to step in against Aaron Phillips at UFC Fight Night on October 23rd. Dana White, Jake Paul, issue never going away. Dana tells Jake Paul to fight somebody his own size and stop calling out Jorge Masvidal. I'd argue that Jorge Masvidal out of competition probably is closer to Jake Paul's size. I know there's a height difference a little bit, but I'm sure Masvidal is walking around at least at 185, 190, if not higher, now that he's fighting at 170 on a regular basis. But, you know, Dana doesn't want to give anything to Jake Paul because Jake Paul is trying to get people paid more, and that's not Dana's wheelhouse. And then last but not least, we just saw Bellator 266. Anthony Rumble Johnson out of the Bellator Grand Prix, light heavyweight Grand Prix. Julius, I'm going to butcher this name, Angelikas steps in as an alternate. He will be fighting Nemkov on October 16th. And we'll talk about a little bit later. Phil Davis also volunteered his services if somebody else drops out. So that is the news. Now it's time for the giveaway. Giveaway number one. We said we'd say it throughout the show, so make sure you pay attention. You see the splash on the screen. It wasn't much of a comment, but we do appreciate the love anyway. Shannon Kelly, you are a winner. You are getting a free, any shirt you want in the FightersFirst.shop. Go on, leave a comment, get your information. You can pick out any shirt you want. Tell me the size, tell me the style. I'll get it right out to you. Give me your address, and I'll send it to you. So congratulations, Shannon. Her comment was free shirt. So that's all it took. That's all it took. So thank you, Shannon, for participating last week and helping us celebrate. And now this is actually probably going to be my favorite part of the show. You always hear how mad and angry I am. I'm like the angry rapper of Art of MMA. I always got something mad to say about the rant. It's not me this week, folks. I'm going to turn the floor over to my man, Brandon Catino. Brandon, what you angry about this week?
Hey, man, nobody's angry. It's just a question. I just want to know, why is it that MMA fans can't support another organization just like how wrestling fan does for other wrestling promotions? Like, you think about saying the big thing in wrestling is WWE, and now we got AEW, and fans are just gushing over it, saying how great it is. It gets like fans talk about it on social media, while we go to MMA, it's UFC fight nights, pay-per-views, MMA Twitter is exploding. Then it's a Bellator show, it's crickets. PFL is crickets. I don't get why is that. So I'm just asking you guys, why is it that you think that is?
First of all, I'm gonna say I'm disappointed. I was expecting the pro wrestling version of Brandon Mechanic Catino turning into Brandon Blade Catino. I was expecting, if you watch Unfiltered, I was expecting the Blade Brown to come out of you. And I did look it up. You are right. His name was like Michael Blade Brown, but everybody called him Blade Brown. Anyway, that's a story for Unfiltered. Go check it out. I will say this. You're not wrong. I know you were like shouting out another website we love to follow. Combat Press usually gives us some of the best detailed results for all the shows. During the whole night, they were tweeting out UFC stuff, but not mentioning Bellator once during Bellator 266. Mm-hmm. You're not wrong, but at the same time, I feel like there's two groups of fans, and we talked about this off air. There is the same thing with wrestling. There is UFC and WWE fans, right? And then you have real MMA and real wrestling fans that follow Bellator, PFL, whatever this new World Fight League thing is going to start up next year. One, Ryzen, you name it, right? Regional promotions like CFFC and XFC and Titan and Spanish promotions like Luke's and all these things, right? This global thing that we call mixed martial arts. And then you have fans that only know UFC because that's the one that's marketed the most. That's the one that gets the billions of dollars. And that's what you know. Same thing in wrestling with WWE. Then there's got fans that like AEW and New Japan and Ring of Honor and you name it, right? Impact Wrestling and everything. I don't necessarily blame the fans because what you're really talking about is casual fans versus diehard fans. And it's a little disappointing that a network that we follow that is what we thought was they are definitely diehard fans. Didn't really cover it that night. But you're right. You go on Twitter that night, we were one of the only people really talking about Bellator when the whole MMA Twitter universe was only talking about UFC fight. And it's not that UFC fight wasn't exciting because that was actually a really great card. But that's my thoughts on it. I think it's a difference. I think there's diehards and I think there's casuals. And the casuals are going to go to the big money and they're only going to see what the money puts in front of them.
So, I'm gonna let you get into. So then tell me this. So then where are the diehard fans for MMA at that want to watch Bellator and PFL? Because I'm not seeing them besides you and I. Where are if Tim throws it in, on a Bellator, but I'm saying I'm not seeing anybody else. So I'm saying if you're talking about MMA like diehard fans, everything like that, like I'm saying, where are they at then? How come I'm not hearing from them?
Tim?
I totally co-sign, and I got frustrated a while ago because I cover so much MMA, and I'll put a lot of that other organizations' fight highlights on social media, and it gets absolutely no interactions. And the MMA outside of the UFC is so flipping good. Of like KSW, like Rise and One, PFL, this stuff's amazing. Every month you have a really good ACA, and a CFFC card is always so good. If you're just watching the UFC, you're missing out on a ton of stuff. But I did throw up the question. I mean, back in the day, we had one card every 3 months, and then it eventually developed into one card every month. That if you catch every UFC card, you have a pretty busy schedule as is. But yeah, it is frustrating when I do want to talk about someone deep on an ACA or a CFFC undercard who just had a great show last week. And then, there's absolutely no one else out there and no one reads the stuff,
I mean, hey, well, relax, guys. Remember, I'm the one continuing over here. Remember this, Mike? Remember, I'm the one holding this one down. All right, relax, sir. You'll get your chance to speak. Now, I just want to go back to what you were saying, Tim. Now, yes, I get it, right? UFC every week, but hey, with wrestling, there's a show every week, especially with WWE. Yeah. You got your Raw, your NXT, you got your SmackDown. So that's 3 shows. But now Rampage, or should I say AEW, they now have 2 shows. They got Dynamite and they got Rampage now. But people are still watching and people are still talking about it, And then of course, even in wrestling, like you still have people talking about Impact Wrestling. They still want to show them love. Me. I'm a big fan of NWA, so I'm showing them some love.
Nobody wants to show Impact love.
Get out of here, man. All right, there's still people out there, right? Your diehards, as you were just talking about earlier. But that's my thing. My thing is like, I don't get like why can't we, like, why is it like in wrestling we can come together and still show love to everybody, while in MMA we're just showing love to the, like, I guess I want to say in wrestling you're showing love to the wrestler. You're showing to wherever they go. While in MMA it's always been about the 3 letters, the UFC. Where even if, like we talked about before, like we talked about like Benson Henderson, well known in the UFC, he leaves there, he goes over to Bellator. Mike goes like, oh, people probably think that he retired, and
I believe my exact words are people probably think he's dead.
Yeah. I mean, even this past weekend, the Twitter was at me. I was like, yo, come at me on Twitter. But basically, I had people that was just straight up disrespecting Phil Davis, calling him a bum. And I was like, whoa, bro, Phil Davis is not a bum. But that's because, those guys don't watch Bellator. They don't watch MMA. They don't know anything. They just know things after Conor McGregor. Because Phil Davis was big time in the UFC. He's big time in Bellator. Back to you, Mike. You can start talking.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. It just goes down to marketing, and that's 100% what it is. UFC, for better or worse, and I don't want to take anything away from them because they spent the last 20 years building a brand to give MMA a place in proper sports. Like MMA was a backyard, tough man, inside bar brawl. Just it had everybody offended. People couldn't watch it. You had to sneak around on pay-per-view to like try to get a tough man competition. And they turned it into everyday talk. Will MMA ever be the thing you talk about around the water cooler? I don't know if it ever will get to that level. But they're on networks like ESPN. They're covered on networks like CBS and Viacom. They've gotten to the point, and a lot of that is respectfully due to the UFC and the work that Dana and the Fertitta brothers all put in. Whether they were doing fair business practices, that's a whole nother discussion. And all the pay scale stuff is a whole nother discussion. But from a marketing point of view, they took a promotion that was pretty much almost dead in the water after the first couple of UFCs. And I think they took over like right before UFC 8, if I'm not mistaken. And they've made it into a global spectacular, a lot of it following the WWE and Vince McMahon model. Dana's admitted it in the past. And they took that model. Same thing with WWE. If a wrestler leaves WWE, how often does the wrestling community think that guy just doesn't wrestle anymore? And then they come back and it's like, oh my God, where have you been? But they've been wrestling the whole time. I do think there's probably a more diehard audience in wrestling than there is in MMA. But at the same time, I think it's marketing. I think people watch what comes on their television. They watch what's on, major networks like ESPN. And if you're not covered on those networks, you don't exist. And that's the casual fan that, unfortunately, much like wrestling found out, once the casual fan went away during the Attitude Era, so did the money. Now the casual fans are coming back during this new war of AEW and WWE. Now the money's coming back. The best thing in the world for UFC is promotions like Bellator, PFL, and all these ones getting major TV deals and doing major things, because it's only good for the community and for fans like us that follow all the action. Brandon, it's your rant. Any last words before we move on?
Support your MMA promotions, people.
There we go. All right. That is the rant by Brandon Coutinho. I was hoping I got a little bit more fired up as I kind of poked him and prodded him a little bit as it went. Tim stayed calm, didn't get quite the animated, throw the hat off, get all upset, but maybe next time. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, time for giveaway number 2. We just had a couple segments. Back to the giveaway. We're going to do it one more time throughout the episode after this. Congratulations, Valerie Morris. You are winner number 2. Obviously must be a Brandon Coutinho fan, because she said she was there for the purple shirts. And that can only mean one thing: the Sea of Purple, the Tune-Up Crew, all that great stuff. So, Valerie, congratulations. I'll get in touch with you, and we will find a way to get you a shirt, whether you want that purple one, that purple one, or any of the other great shirts like this one that also supports that guy over there. That guy. Anyway. All right, let's move on. It is time for some results. This is one of the reasons why we have people like Tim Wheaton on the show. Unfortunately, I didn't do so good last week. I was inching my way up back of the leaderboard, and I took a nosedive off the cliff last week. I went 2-3. Brandon, of course, went 4-1 in his picks. Still the lead dog by almost a comeback. Like, I don't know if I can come back at this point, but we'll see. Hopefully he gets some fight canceled like I did earlier in the year, and I get to come back that way. Let's go ahead and start it off. We're talking about Bellator 266. Of course, the debut of Yoel Romero against Mr. Wonderful Phil Davis. Tim, I'll start with you. What did you think of the fight? What happened? And was it what you expected?
Oh, it was exactly what I expected. Before the show on the MMA Sucker podcast, we talked about this could be a really cool, fun fight, but it's more likely that Phil Davis is going to fight the Phil Davis fight, which is kind of a much slower paced fighter, in that the UFC gave him some headlining fights, and they were more than happy to watch him leave, and they didn't miss him too much. And then Yoel Romero, I do question at this advanced age. He hasn't had amazing fights in quite some time. He's really has been struggling to get the engine started. But yeah, this fight went pretty much as expected, in that it was a little bit passable as a fight, and Phil Davis did Phil Davis stuff, and he's an extremely talented fighter at what he does. He never goes up in gear. He does exactly what he does, and then Yoel Romero never could get the engine started. He definitely knew that the fight was 3 rounds. It's just Yoel Romero can never fight with normal conditions, can he?
Yeah, I was going to ask what you thought about that. Brandon, it kind of reminds me of football, Tom Brady forgetting it was 4th down Yoel Romero. Like, what do you mean it's over? It's only 3 rounds. I think for his sake, it's probably good that it was only 3 rounds. What do you think?
Man, I want to say this, like Tim said, man, this fight went exactly how I thought it would be. It's like something that we had talked about last week, which is why I don't know why Bellator decided to make this his first fight. Made no sense to me. This is somebody, like saying Phil Davis is somebody who you don't look good against. If you're trying to have a highlight reel,
name available.
I'm saying no. But again, we said, why does it have to be a big name? They're not in the tournament. So just give him some guy to just come in. He can just get a flying knee kick like how he did in his UFC debut. People will be hyping him up. Oh, snap, Yoel doing his thing. But instead, you give him Phil Davis. Phil Davis does not make mistakes. He doesn't take risk. He has good striking. Definitely has good wrestling. As you saw in that last round, he took him down 5 times. And also, and like saying, man, like, I mean, to me, man, this fight is about Phil Davis. It's not about Yoel Romero. I'm not gonna jump on him and get on him about anything about like, oh man, you know what, the UFC, they were right about cutting him like some fans were on Saturday. Those are fans that don't pay attention to anything, that don't know better. Because the thing is, like, you gotta remember, Yoel hasn't fought since it was last March. So like basically
18, 19 months or something.
Exactly. He's been off for a year. Plus, 2, he's moving up in weight. That does make a difference. A lot of people don't think about that, but it does make a difference when you're fighting in a different weight class. And then also 2, the Bellator cage is different than the octagon because it's a circle instead of your 8 corners. That does make a difference. It's his first fight. I really won't say anything about Yoel until I'm like 3 fights in.
I will. So one thing I do want to apologize to the fans at home. For a long time, we were under the assumption that he couldn't make the last fight because of visa issues. Turns out it was an injury to his eye during camp. I'm not sure how much that eye injury played into this one because I do know, and maybe, I mean, I know it's kind of how his guard is, but the whole fight he had his one hand protecting that eye. And I don't know if that had something to do with it. I'm going to assume it didn't, but you know what happens when you make assumptions. As far as this fight goes, Phil Davis went out, especially the later rounds, on a mission to prove that he is the best wrestler in MMA. Like, he's like, okay, I'm going against Olympic level. I'm a national champion. I got you. For Yoel Romero's part, I thought he looked more active than he has in past fights, especially the Adesanya fight that we remember most last. Both fights started off very boring. And then I guess I'll give it credit to Romero, especially like later in the first round, in the second, third round. He was throwing more blows, leg kicks, doing different stuff. He was swinging for the fences a couple times. He just didn't connect. I think the problem with Romero, and you talking about building him up, is that he's 44 years old. And he might be able to fight forever. I mean, he's built out of granite. But as a promoter, you kind of think in your head, in my mind, I can't speak for Scott Coker, obviously, but in my mind, I'm like, how much mileage am I really going to get out of this big name signing? Let me just throw him in with the top of the class and see what happens. If he wins, he wins. He loses, he loses. If he loses, it only promotes the other guy even bigger because this guy's coming over from UFC who has a name. Obviously, Phil Davis came over from UFC a long time ago. But Phil Davis, for his part, can beat almost anybody in that division not named Nemkov, right? Like, he just can't beat Nemkov. He's lost to Nemkov twice. So there's no title shot really lined up in his future because of that. But I wouldn't mind seeing him in a matchup with, some of the others. I would love to see him up against Rumble Johnson or maybe even like a shot at Bader or any of these guys. But I just don't want to see him against Nemkov again because I think he can't figure Nemkov out. As far as Romero goes, at this point, I think they'll probably wait for Rumble to get healthy again from whatever illness he's battling. They didn't disclose it. Maybe he's got, I'm not even going to speculate, but maybe that's the fight they have next because now Romero is clearly free. Johnson's out of the tournament. He's clearly free. So maybe that's the fight we see next. Tim, what do you think is next for both these guys?
Yeah, Yoel Romero needs a little bit of a nap, but yeah, you're right. His eye looked particularly bad in this fight, didn't it? He I know that he got a damage during the Robert Whittaker fight, but yeah, it looked particularly bad in this fight. I do like for Yoel. I just want to see the Anthony Johnson fight. That's just a fun fight, and both of them are in their horizon, kind of their sunset years. So I think that would be a great fight. But Phil Davis, I don't know what's next for him because he is more moving up in the division. And anyone you put him up against, like Brandon, you were saying, of you lose to him, you look terrible. Even winning against him, you look terrible. Prime Rashad could barely do anything to Phil Davis despite winning that fight. So what's next for him? I really don't know. But yeah, Yoel, I'd love to see that Anthony Johnson fight. That seems like a lot of fun.
Brandon, I'll throw one name out for you because a lot of fighters don't like to fight down, but this guy's coming up fast, and we'll talk about him in a second. Grant Neal. I mean, that'd be a great fight.
I mean, I'm sure Phil Davis is eager to fight anybody, but I say
Corey Anderson, but go ahead.
But I say for Yoel, just give him some name that's not ranked, just some dude that you can just fight. Because even too, I'm gonna go back also to the Rumble Johnson fight, his debut. He didn't look so good. He almost got knocked out, but he caught his guy and he won. So I'm saying, there are different things to when you're coming to another promotion and everything like that. But also too, man, why I get on about the whole Phil Davis thing is you think about what just happened with Anthony Rumble Johnson. Let's say, right, Yoel, he fought some other dudes, unranked guy, whatever, who cares? He gives us a highlight reel knockout. Boom, you could throw Yoel in with Nemkov, already give him a title shot. Since you're worried about, the age and everything like that and how much miles you can get, the people won't hate on it. They'll be like, oh snap, Yoel title fight, I'm in. Let's see it. Especially
it wouldn't be the first time he got a title fighter coming off a loss either.
Yeah. But if he would have won, they would have put him in that tournament and he could have been good.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. Same thing with matchups for Phil Davis. It's hard to really prophesize what's going to happen because they still have the tournament going on with the rest of the top names in the division. So see how the tournament works out, and I'm sure the rest of it will work out shortly. Of course, we'll know more after their date in October, how that's all going to work out. In the co-main, we had Neiman Gracie looked fantastic against Mark Lemminger. That's one of the picks I lost. I personally thought Lemminger was going to present a different challenge to Gracie. I knew Gracie was getting better with his hands. I knew Gracie was definitely on the ground a killer. But I thought Lemminger could use some of that wrestling. I thought he could use a different style of striking and give him fits. That wasn't the case. Brandon, what happened in that fight?
Gracie, man, hanging out at King's MMA. Like I said, man, you really want to learn how to strike. King's MMA is the place to be if you're in California. Like I said, man, he looked real sharp. He let those hands go. So you saying, like I said, man, like I had put on Twitter, man, he smelled blood. He went in for the finish, man, throwing those uppercuts, and he did work. Like I said, I think now what Gracie is about is now he knows that he can take you out on the ground if you try to go there. But also too, what he can do is he can kind of still maybe make it a little bit even standing up with his boxing now.
Tim, you love to analyze these things a lot more than me. What did Gracie do to put Lemminger out so quickly?
Pressure. In this fight, it was a lot of pressure in the first round. I think he surprised him, but I think Mr. Gracie had a little bit of a fire under him coming off a loss in his last fight. And impressively, he's got better hands than he has. This is his first TKO or KO win in history. But yeah, backed him up, put a lot of pressure on him, didn't let up, and got it done in 90 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, not much to analyze with the fight. It was pretty quick.
Yeah.
I will say this. Two things bother me about this fight. One, Neiman Gracie thinking that he somehow got screwed against Jason Jackson. No, you didn't. You lost that fight. Jackson did exactly what he needed to do to win that fight. Was it close and competitive? Sure. I don't think very many people had any question that Jackson won that fight. And the second thing is calling out people when you're coming off a loss and just finally got another win. I feel like it's great to be confident, but I feel like maybe get a couple wins and then you'd be like, all right, cool, I'm back. You had a quick knockout. That's awesome. I know you're pumped up. But the only fight that really does make sense to me is if Jackson, for some reason, is still left waiting because of the whole jumbled top of the division with Lima and Amosov and Page. And you also got, they're kind of trying to work it out. I don't really see any problem with seeing him fight a Logan Storley. Or if he wants a money fight, just like Romero, Paul Daly's looking for a couple of last paydays on his career too. He might have to do a catch weight because how Paul Daly goes. Real quick, Tim, what do you think is next for Gracie?
I love the Paul Daly fight, but yeah, it is. I don't entirely know what the future holds for him. I do want to get excited about the Gracie name for the future, but I don't know if this is quite going to be the guy to break that mold, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I don't entirely know. I'll say the Paul Daly fight because that sounds like a ton of fun.
What about you, Brandon? What do you think's next for Gracie?
I can see him either getting the winner or I guess you say the loser of the Lima MVP fight, because to me, I think Jason Jackson should be next for the title shot anyway.
Yeah, I hope so. I think, and obviously if MVP wins, that kind of throws another like chink in the armor, like trying to figure out what's going to happen with all this.
Man, MVP ain't winning, man. He's going to get knocked out again.
You never know, man. I'll tell you what, man. You never know in this game. And MVP, for his part, he used to always be worried about the takedown, but fighting like people like Houston and stuff and like that, his defense was pretty damn good. So we'll see. I haven't seen MVP in the cage in a while, so we'll see what happens with that.
I'm going to be at that event. I'm covering it as media, so I'll be at the weigh-ins, and then I'll be at their little Wembley thing that they got going on. It'll be fun. It'll be a fun one.
Awesome. Look forward to seeing your coverage on Calf Kick Sports about all that. Else on the card, we won't spend much time on it. Brandon's favorite, Deanna Bennett, got the win over Lara.
Jersey, baby.
Dominant. Like, Lara started off fast, like the first minute, and then all of a sudden Bennett just turned it on her. And like the rest of the fight was all Deanna Bennett. Saul Rogers continues his evolution in going up. Speaking of European British fighters, Saul Rogers just looked fantastic against Georgie. Ben Parrish got the win against Christian Edwards, which I know we're not supposed to root against fighters here.
Hey, Tuna.
We're not supposed to root against fighters, but I'll let you know a little backstory because I don't think I'm ever going to interview Christian Edwards at this point. When Conversations was really going strong in the other MMA show we had going on, interview show, we had scheduled to interview Christian Edwards 3, maybe 4 times. And every time, like the day of, he would just flake or ghost or something came up. Never much reason, never much excuse, just like, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't make it. And as all of us know, we all have busy lives, and we try to schedule this so we can follow our passions and do what we do. So we're like, we get it. We'll give you, benefit of the doubt once, twice. But you know what they say, fool me once, fool me twice, So seeing him get knocked out by Ben Parrish after being so cocky, seeing him come in the cage doing the John Jones cartwheel and doing the John Jones entrance at the foot of the cage, Christian, take this as a bit of helpful advice. Be you. You can follow some of the great traits that John Jones has, and you can definitely learn from one of the greatest of all time. But be you. Don't come in the cage like John Jones. Get your own entrance. Get your own thing. Brandon, what'd you think of that whole fight? Because I know, like, that knockout, like you just said at Big Tuna, like, he got caught clean.
Yeah, Big Tuna just looks like it was just like another version of like Roy Nelson. He's just a guy who doesn't look like he's a fighter, but hey, man, he still comes to fight. Like I said, I think he's somebody like saying if you market him right, he could be pretty big in Bellator. As if he has the skills to back it up.
Yeah, my wife was like, did he just lose a bunch of weight? He has so much flabby skin. I was like, I didn't know how to explain that. Further down the card, Pelosi, we just talked about Grant Neal, that split decision. That was such a weird decision to me. I thought Neal might have done enough to win the fight, but I guess I was clearly wrong. Tim, who'd you have winning that fight?
And I wasn't watching it as a judge's eye, but yeah, I'll usually just take what the judges said because I don't want to argue about these kinds of things.
That's Tim's code for saying he didn't see that fight.
You got it.
Anyway, that's BS right there. Anyway, I thought it was a tough split decision loss. Of course, it does derail any potential future matchups in that division that we were just talking about. Anthony Adams got the win over Khalid, unanimous decision. Seriano got the win over Socrates by decision. Baby Us, one of the Usos, Rikishi's nephew, Abraham Vesavia, got the win over a very game Albert Gonzalez. Got that knockout in the first round. I didn't know going into that fight that he was the like. I kind of remembered something with Rikishi doing something with Bellator, but I didn't know that was the person. And then now realizing that that's the Usos' cousin and that's the nephew of Rikishi is pretty cool. Shane Keefe with the win over the other Gracie on the card. De Los Santos over John Adams with a really nice knockout in the first round. Definitely go check out on YouTube that highlight. That was awesome. And then Delgado got the win over Dylan with a unanimous decision. Gentlemen, anything else you want to add on Bellator before we move on? Nope. Crickets. This is why we don't talk about it on Twitter. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry, Brandon. Please forgive me. Don't chin check me because I will RKO your ass. Anyway. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's turn our attention to the one that MMA Twitter was covering. I'm talking about UFC Vegas 37. Anthony Lionheart-Smith versus Superman Ryan Spann. It had a lot of hype. It didn't have a lot of action. Anthony Smith came in motivated, angry from his perceived disrespect by Ryan Spann, even though Ryan really didn't mean it the way it came across. To the point that we've never even seen Anthony Smith that fired up after a fight. He's normally cool and casual, very respectful. And after he calmed down, he was respectful. But you could tell he was still fired up by thinking he was being disrespected. Anthony Smith has looked great his last few fights. And unfortunately, when he's fought the top of the division, he's kind of had a hard time. Had a hard time against Glover. Had a hard time against, obviously, John Jones. I don't know what to make of Anthony Smith so much sometimes because I know he's a contender. But, Brandon, I'll start with you. Is he a contender that's ready to get back on the horse and challenge for a title? Or is he always just going to be that tough guy at the top of the division that might not get another crack?
Nah, he's definitely ready to get in there and fight for a title again. You know, like I said, he wants the Rakic fight. Rakic seems cool with it too, and so does the UFC. So we'll see it. We'll see if that fight might happen in December. But like I said, man, dude, like something that it's something that I try to tell you all the time, but I feel like you just let it go in one ear and out the other. And it's just that fighters do change, man. Learning how to fight at a high level takes time, sir. So how somebody was maybe 2 fights ago won't be how they will be 3 fights in the future. People do grow, they become better, they change things up, they tweak things. And I'm saying Anthony Smith just right now, I'm saying he's on a run. He's looking like a different guy. I say he'll be fighting for a title soon. And, hey, man, if all falls right, man, he could be a champion.
Tim, when you jumped on this show today, did you know there were going to be so many shots fired at me?
Matt, I was hoping.
Wow, y'all want to know why I'm about to turn bad guy. All right, Tim, break this fight down for me, buddy.
Yeah, we saw an angry, motivated Anthony Smith, and it's good that he was following a game plan in this fight. Got it done early with a rear naked choke. It's impressive work in a fight that he absolutely needed to win. Like, he can't be screwing around in these fights with Crute, Devin Clark, and this one here. He can't be screwing around. He needs to get it done as quickly as possible. He's got 3 first-round finishes in a row, but I'm kind of on the other side of yourself, Mr. Coutinho, of I think this is pretty much the ceiling for Anthony Smith, and I love Anthony Smith. He's super fun to listen to. He's a great analyzer. He's a super chill guy. But I think this is it. He is in the top 5 of the division, but I can't see him beating anyone in the ahead of him, but he probably beats everybody behind him. It's a little bit of an awkward spot for him to be in, but he might just feel that Joseph Benavidez, or he's just going to be a Donald Cerrone role for the rest of his career where they can quickly get him into headlining fights during the off season. And that's kind of how they've been using him so far.
Yeah, I feel bad for Ryan Spann because he was on such a roll. He had that one hiccup, but other than that, he's been finishing a lot of POTUS. Since he went down to Fortis, like you talk about, Brandon, changing camp stuff. Like, since he went down to Fortis a few fights ago, Ryan Spann's game has stepped up a lot. I think it says more about how much better Anthony Smith has gotten over his last few fights. But let me ask you real quick before we move on, Brandon. How is a Rakic fight with Anthony Smith different now than it was last August? Like, we just saw this fight. Like, August 2020?
Yeah. I mean, well, so according to Anthony Smith just believes that he just let Rakic just do whatever he wanted. Like, he didn't really do anything. Plus 2, Rakic chewed up his leg right from the yank. Anthony Smith is really not known to check leg kicks, and that's what he didn't do. His leg was compromised.
That's very ironic.
and that's what happened. But I think this time he thinks that he will have a better performance. He really truly believes that he can beat Rakic. So we'll see what happens. He might get another shot, and then we can see.
I don't know. There's really, Rakic had a hiccup against Ozdemir, but the guy, especially when it comes to a striking opponent, he's very tough because he's so big, so long. Like, he gives fits to a lot of those guys. You saw what he did with Thiago. We obviously never got the Dominic Reyes fight that we were promised. That just kind of went away. I think Rakic is probably going to end up waiting for a title shot based off the winner of Jan and Glover, but we'll see. It should be interesting. In the co-main event, the Hulk, Ian Cutelaba just absolutely destroyed Devin Clark. Both Brandon and I picked Devin Clark in this fight. But, man, other than the hiccup with Anthony Smith, Devin Clark had looked fantastic. And Cutelaba hadn't looked that great. He got knocked out twice in a row at one point. But like Brandon just said, Tim, you're not, and I'll go ahead and start with you. Like Brandon just said, people evolve. And that version of Cutelaba that we saw in the cage last Saturday is a contender fighting against anybody. He was vicious. What do you think of that fight?
Devin Clark was a safe pick going in because what we've always criticized Ian Cutelaba for is that he gets in his own head. He can't focus beyond his own anger, and he does stupid things and makes mistakes. This was an impressive fight because he showed growth in that he could game plan. He landed like 8 to 10 takedowns or something like that in this fight. That was pretty impressive that he could not get pissed off during this fight and just control himself and act like a professional fighter does and not just fighting like a caveman like he usually does.
I think some of that passion, though, also fuels his power, too. Brandon, what went wrong for Devin Clark?
Dude, Devin Clark wanted this fight. Devin Clark got what he wanted. He wanted the bully. And Cutelaba usually is a bully, and that's what he got. The bully was too much for him. Like saying Devin Clark, he likes to try to be a bully too, where he can try to run and ram people, but he met a bigger and better bully that night, and you can tell by the photo of his teeth getting jacked up that it just wasn't his night. I'm saying, dude, Cutelaba was just all over him. There was nothing that Clark could have did striking wise. Cutelaba was better. Wrestling wise, Cutelaba was better. Ground control, Cutelaba was better. It was just Devin Clark was just basically trying to survive for the whole 15 minutes. There really was nothing that he could do. I don't think he really hurt Cutelaba or anything like that. But hey, man, just going back to MMA fans, I don't care. I stand by what my words is. Phil Davis would ragdoll Cutelaba like I said he would. These people trying to call Phil Davis a bum. Man, you guys don't know anything out here. You fake fans, casuals.
Well, there's definitely levels to this.
The UFC light heavyweight division, honestly, I think it's probably their weakest division. And if you brought in the top 3 guys from Bellator, at worst, they would probably be top 5 in the UFC. At best, they would be champions of the UFC. This is a sad division.
Well, you can't really look at it from a fight night card. Let's be clear. Like, these guys, Anthony Smith is a top guy, but at the same time, Cutelaba him and Devin Clark were just kind of I said going into last week, I didn't understand why this was the co-main. But that said, back on Cutelaba real quick before we kind of delve deeper into that. Cutelaba is a good fighter, but he has trouble with strikers. Devin Clark tried to mix it up with him. He didn't have the striking level that Jacoby had. And it slips my mind, the guy that knocked him out twice in a row. You put him up against anybody in that top division, he's not going to play with a Rakic. He's not going to be able to compete with – I think even Ryan Spann would give Cutelaba trouble just because of that length and that reach. If you can strike with Cutelaba, you can stop him. He's like one of those guys. Like, what's the best way to knock somebody out is to catch somebody coming in, right? Cutelaba goes in head first. Devin Clark got spooked. He didn't react fast enough, and he got bullied. If you're one of those people that catch him coming in, then it's a different story. I think Cutelaba is going to be a fun fighter for a long time, but I don't think he's going to be a contender anytime soon. Speaking about that top 5, though, you also have to remember, first of all, Jan has developed into one of the best light heavyweights in the world. We still don't know if John Jones will ever come back to the division. You got Glover, who's one of the toughest nails. You can never, like a zombie. He just keeps coming forward. As much as I respect a lot of the Bellator guys, I think it's a little insulting sometimes. Like, people think, oh, these guys are this. Because when they were in the UFC, they weren't.
Whoa, bro. Don't see you're another guy trying to disrespect Phil Davis. Don't do that to Phil.
No, hold up.
Don't do that to Phil.
Hold up. I'm not talking about Phil.
That's who we're talking about.
I'm talking about
right now with Phil Davis.
I'm talking about what Tim just said. Phil Davis is one. But
Corey Anderson was a top-ranked guy too.
Corey Anderson lost in the UFC. Phil Davis lost in the UFC. Ryan Bader lost in the UFC. Nemkov's the only one we really don't know how he would do.
He could be champion. That top position style, no one is utilizing in the light heavyweight division. It's a division of strikers.
Wait. I'm sorry. Wait. So you're trying to rank on these guys because they lost in the UFC? Wait, who hasn't lost in the UFC?
Almost every one of those guys went to Bellator on a loss. Am I wrong? Crickets.
No, but you're recontextualizing an argument in terms of who did they lose to?
If they had been winners and they had been champions, they'd still be in the UFC.
Bro, they didn't give Corey Anderson his title shot like they should have. They wouldn't give Phil Davis a title shot either, bro. Phil Davis, John Jones was the fight to make, but they didn't want to give it to him. They want to give it to Phil Davis. Remember, Phil Davis, the guy that was ragdolling Gustafsson. He ragdolled Gustafsson so much, Gustafsson was like, yo, I need to train with you. Please teach me your ways. That's how much Phil Davis was doing things. They shook out here, man. You know how it is. Dana White has favors, bro. Come on, bro. Dana White privilege is out here, man. Come on.
We're going to go into the rest of this card. I agree with you about the Dana White privilege, if you want to call it that. But what I will say is don't hype up one by putting down the other. Because these fighters at the top of the UFC division aren't no joke either.
I'm not
disrespecting Phil Davis and them, but let's be real.
I'm being real, but though that's the thing. So what I'm trying to say, dude, somebody's trying to say that Kudalaba would smash Phil Davis. I'm like, dude, you're drunk. No, the dude on Twitter, people on Twitter, I was talking about, man.
You saw one drunk troll on Twitter say that.
No, dude, no, because it was
probably Tim Wheaton.
No, because more people were trying to come at me and they were trying to say that I sounded dumb. I was like, no. So, but tell me this, dude. Top 5 UFC. Tell me who Phil Davis isn't beating.
That's it. That's exactly it. He gets to the top 3.
Blagowicz.
No,
he does not beat Blagowicz.
You don't think he beats?
That's number one. That's the number one guy. Yeah, that's fair. That's reasonable.
You don't think he can take Blagowicz? I think he could do enough striking to keep Blagowicz at bay, and there's no way Blagowicz is taking him down. I don't think Blagowicz is going to control his wrestling.
Is tough enough to handle anything he has and keep coming forward. Same thing with, I think maybe Phil Davis, because he's younger and faster, could beat Glover. But I think he would struggle with Rakic because of the range and the striking. I think he would. I don't know what to make of Yuri Prochazka.
Phil Davis has a 79-inch reach. I don't even know what Rakic has. Does Rakic have that reach on him?
Yeah, because Rakic is also like 2 inches taller. Rakic is like 6'5", 6'6".
He might be taller, but that don't mean he has the reach. Remember, there's a difference.
He does have pretty good reach. I'd have to look it up to see. I know Phil Davis has like these huge. I know, but
Yuri Prochazka is another good example of the UFC light heavyweight division is struggling. He came in off of a win over King Mo Lawal, and now he's ranked 2 in the division.
I've argued against Prochazka getting that high ranking since the beginning. Like, I know Dana's been after him for years to come to the UFC. I don't understand like the hype. He had one big knockout or one big finish, and then like all of a sudden now he's a title contender. I think he needs to win a couple more fights as a fan to see like him in the title picture. But it's tough. You got Reyes falling down. You got that middle of the UFC light heavyweight division with like fighters like Krylov and Johnny Walker and Spawn and Jimmy Crute and Jamal Hill and all those guys. Paul Craig's another guy who you don't know what to make of because he's a fantastic grappler, but how would he do against another grappler? So we'll see. All that stuff's going to shake itself out. But I'm just saying, I'm fully supportive of Bellator, but the UFC is also got some of the best fighters in the world too. So I don't dismiss one to promote the other.
But like, so Vadim Nemkov, does he beat a Glover? Does he beat a Jiri? Does he beat a Rakic?
I don't know. I can't answer that because I don't know.
He's got the right style. He's got that top position grappling style.
Yeah, dude, Tim, don't let him sucker you. See what he's doing? He's trying to say he don't know, but he said it the other way.
I'm a huge Vadim Nemkov fan.
I put him in Bellator. He'd be like, nah, he'll beat him. I see where you're at, Mike. I see where you're at.
Go back 50 episodes. You see what this is? Is that I picked Nemkov when the guy over there picked Mr. Wonderful, and I was right and he was wrong, and he's still bitter about that.
Hey, whoa, but yo, I'll be real, but at least me, I can say Nemkov would do some damage in the UFC. You understand? I don't know, even though you picked him against Phil Davis.
I'm a huge Nemkov fan, but I just don't know because I haven't seen him against very much competition. He beat
Phil Davis twice. That's all you need to know right now.
Phil Davis wasn't undefeated in the UFC.
Oh my goodness, man. Yo, let's move on, man. Talk about some other fights, man. Talk about some other fights.
But to be fair, we are talking about the top of a Bellator division. If you compare the middle of the UFC division to a middle of a Bellator division, yeah, UFC is a lot better put together when you get past
From top
5
to
and
bottom,
beyond.
obviously. The same thing I said about the Bellator card this weekend. It was top heavy, whereas UFC had a lot deeper card. Speaking of which, we are going to move on before everybody tunes out of our celebration episode before me and Brandon come to blows. We saw the good Ariana Lipski against Baum. Like, we saw the return of, like, she's so up and down. We never know what to make. Heckle Jekyll. Like, we don't know. But she looked really great this week. Sarukan versus, I'm butchering the name, Gallegos. That TKO in the first round was vicious. Manis was one of the best comebacks in MMA you can see. Tony Gravely was definitely winning that fight. Manis came back with a big knockout in the second round. Maybe not quite Badahari, but it was a pretty impressive knockout. Mr. Knockout, Joaquin Buckley with the big knockout over Arroyo. I didn't really know what to make of that one because Arroyo had like this huge size advantage in that one. I didn't know if he could get to him, but he did. He continues elevating his in Chuckway. I told you before last week, I thought in Chuckway could surprise a lot of people. He did. He got the win over Mike Rodriguez and dominated. One of my only pick wins this week, I got 2 right, but this was one of them. I did say Raquel Pennington would get the win over Kianzad, and she looked good doing it. It was a close fight. It was a competitive fight. But if people look at Pennington's record and they see like this 500, almost 500 record, they don't realize half those losses are to champions or somebody who was about to be a champion. She's always fought the toughest ever since tough, no pun intended. And she's always been like up in the conversation. Zhu with the big TKO of Brandon Jenkins in the third round. Another like fantastic finish late in the fight. I don't know what to make of JP Bays. His wife seems to be going one direction, and they have a great story about, selling everything and basically being homeless to try to make it in the UFC. But Cheyenne's winning, JP's falling, and Montel Jackson just took care of business pretty easily against JP.
This is how we do it.
Brandon, you want to talk real quick before we move on about your fight pick, Blanchfield knocking off Appler?
Bro, Erin Blanchfield all day, man. She came in, did her thing, total domination, controlled the whole fight, all the way through. Like I said, man, like Erin has been a top prospect for a while for women's flyweight, and now she's in the UFC. So now we just have to see where it is that she goes. But like I said, man, it was just total domination, man. Striking on the ground, just controlled her girl, just beat her up.
You don't see too many 10-8 rounds in women's fighting. 30-25, 30-25, and 30-26 in that card. Crazy. Harris knocked off, I'm not even going to try to say his last name, Impa by TKO in the first round. Gustavo Lopez and Alatang had a draw. I said that fight was going to be a back-and-forth battle. It was a fun fight. I'm sad there wasn't a winner. I kind of missed – that's another thing where I throw out the one style of scoring where they always pick a winner. You might have a split decision, but you never have a draw. Hannah Goldie versus Whitmire. Hannah Goldie, like I said, it's been looking great. She had one little hiccup. Looked fantastic in that fight with the submission. That was a handful of an event. Guys, anything else you want to add about the UFC card, Tim, Brandon?
Man, I told you ahead of time. I commented on the Cage My IQ. Mandy Baum is the future. She's the real deal. And now I look like a freaking idiot for saying such a thing. I wrote her as like a top prospect to keep your eye on for this year. What an ass I am.
Oh, that's not your fault. That's Lipski's fault because you don't know what to expect from Lipski.
Actually, that's I was gonna comment on that fight too. I was gonna say the thing with Lipski is, remember, this was her second fight camp with American top team. So again, like we talk about,
she's evolving,
getting yourself with a new team. You got to get familiar with your coaches, got to get familiar with your training partners. So this is her second time around. I'm saying she looked serious. So I'm thinking going forward, we might really see the Queen of Violence back.
Hopefully. I mean, I've always been a fan of her, so I do hope she continues to evolve. She brings it. She doesn't sit there and go backwards. So she's a good, fun fight. Real quick before we get on to our picks, I do want to mention last week, congratulations to CFFC. They had their 100th event. We saw a new champion, Blake Smith, knocked off Kamchabekov. Just a fantastic performance from Blake Smith. So congratulations to him. He's the new 155-pound champion. He got the guillotine choke in the third round. And, of course, I think sooner than later, we're going to see Paris Artis in the UFC. Whether he gets a title shot in CFFC before that or not, this guy is UFC bound. No doubt about it in my mind. He got the arm triangle choke over Golden in the third round of that fight. Props to Golden because Golden was super competitive up until then. But just once again, congratulations to Rob Haydek, Aries Garcia, and all those guys over at CFFC. Thank you for all you've done for us. And thank you and congratulations on 100. And look forward to 100 more events from CFFC 100.
That was a good show.
On that card too. All finishes.
That was a great show, up and down. That was a good one.
Yeah, 7 finishes. Crazy. All right, guys, you ready to talk about some previews and picks?
Let's get to it.
Before we get to the big card this weekend, real quick, I want to shout out. One is back in action this weekend. One has their Revolution event. Of course, Christian Lee, just a phenom. This kid has all the tools. Going against Ray Unoke, who got the win over Eddie Alvarez. I know it stirred a lot of people the wrong way. I thought it was a good decision personally when I saw that fight. Should be a fun fight. Unoke has probably a little bit of a reach advantage, but Christian Lee is just a phenom. So I'm really looking forward to that fight. That will be on the 24th. The next night is what everybody's here to talk about. We're going to break down the 3 main fights, talking about UFC 266, and then we'll make our personal picks and get out of here. I know it's an anniversary show, but I'm not trying to be here 2 hours with all these guys. Everybody's got things to do. So before we get to it, we got one last winner to announce in the giveaway. The third winner, Zalika Watley. Let me pull up her comment real quick. I believe that free shirt life. It didn't take much to win this competition, Brandon. I did ask that people pick the shirt or said something about the show, but you know what? I'm just happy people got involved. So Zalika Watley, congratulations. We will get in touch with you and try to get you a Fighters First Shop shirt. Fighters First Shop. Get all your merchandise. Support this show. Support all the network. And if we can eventually recruit Tim, maybe we get some merch for Tim in the shop too. Just saying. Anyway, let's talk about UFC 266. Of course, headlined by the featherweight championship. Volkanovski versus Ortega. They had the tough series. The Ultimate Fighter. Viewership for the series was kind of up and down, but it ended up giving us a couple great winners we saw a couple weeks ago. Tim, you're our guest. I'll go ahead and start with you. What do you expect out of this fight? Who's going to win, and what are we going to see?
And I love this fight. This is such a fun one. Initially, I did pick one fighter outright, but after going back and watching some tape, it's actually a little bit closer than I expected. Volkanovski sometimes struggles when he's doing openings, and we saw that a lot against Max Holloway, when he's going from distance to trying to get into a striking exchange. This is where he gets caught with strikes quite a bit. He was caught with a lot of rear uppercuts. He was knocked down by a rear uppercut as well. And that was the same uppercut that Brian Ortega had landed on Frankie Edgar, the one where he lifted him off the ground. So we'll see if he's been training that, and we'll see if Volkanovski is able to cover that. Max was using a long distance stance, using a lot of teeps, jabs smoothly. Ortega was kind of doing that in the Korean Zombie fight, but for Ortega's credit, he kind of also does similar things where both of them defensively is where I'm struggling to pick out where they're good, because offensively, both of them are so good and so strong offensively, but defensively, both of them cover up and usually just back away. You see very few counters. And Brian Ortega, he had the spinning back elbow. That's pretty much the entire counter, the only counter he's thrown in his entire career. So I think, honestly, I try to always pick out certain moves or certain certain strikes that these fighters use habitually and are landed on habitually. But I think, honestly, a generality is actually okay. I think whoever is going to be more aggressive, you need to control the center and you need to land first in this fight. For my money, Volkanovski is the better pick. I think he's going to be a little bit faster. He actually has a slight reach advantage in this fight, but I think this is going to look a little bit more like the Mendes fight where he's pushing him back to the fence quite a bit. And I think he gets a late TKO, maybe in the 4th or 5th round. I don't think the ground will be a major factor because we've never seen either of these guys control another person for very long on the ground. Typically, it's a quick takedown and then they get up, or a quick takedown into a submission. But for my money, I'm picking Volkanovski.
Brandon?
So kind of like Tim, in the beginning, I had first outright picked somebody right off the bat. I was like, oh yeah, I got this person winning. But then I realized that I was being a casual, a mark, and that's not me. So I'm going with, and still Volkanovski's winning this fight, hands down. Because the casual will say Ortega, because everybody knows who Ortega is. And I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Volkanovski doesn't get the respect he deserves. Basically, like him and Usman are like the two champions that don't get the respect that they love. They deserve. Volkanovski, better striker than Ortega. All right. Ortega looked good against the Korean Zombie, yes, but the Korean Zombie just stood there and let him do whatever he wants. Volkanovski has setups. He knows how to move, has combinations, and he has power. I think really like the only way Ortega could win this is if he was to catch him with a submission. But I don't think that's going to happen because I think that Volkanovski striking is going to basically nullify that, by anything, trying to be on the ground or anything like that. Because also, too, I think Volkanovski does have good wrestling takedown defense as well. So I think Volkanovski's going to win this fight. I think he's going to go all 5 rounds. And then Ortega's going to be another bloody mess, just like I was against Max Holloway. And then he can go get loved up by his girl Tracy Cortez. All right,
that's where the bitterness comes in. I knew that was going to come in somewhere. Brandon's crush on Tracy Cortez. I'm actually going Ortega, but a little bit differently. So first of all, I need a guy like last time Volkanovski lost was way back in like 2013 or something like that. It's been a long time. But I will argue that Max Holloway beat him the last time. That was a bad decision by the notorious MMA judges. I think most people thought Max won that fight. Volkanovski clearly won the first fight with Max, but I think Max definitely won the second fight, and he got robbed. To the point that even Volkanovski is talking about if he wins this fight, knowing that Max is going to be next, even though he's won twice against him already. The problem with Ortega is that the last time he got a chance to taste the championship, he did get basically bloodied up by Max Holloway, doctor stoppage in the 4th round. But I think Ortega went back to the drawing board. You saw it against Zombie. You saw it, as he's come back to the point where he can do different styles. He's only evolving. He's only getting better. And the only loss in his entire career is against Max Holloway, which is not a bad loss. Max Holloway, like I said, I thought beat Volkanovski last time. Volkanovski, I'm not taking anything away from him. I think he is a very good champion. But if you're going to talk about styles and talk about some of the things that Ortega can do that Max Holloway can do, and in some cases maybe even better in different areas, I don't think Ortega's on Max Holloway's level. I think we've seen that already. I think Ortega is a very, very good fighter, but I think Max Holloway is a different level. To the point where different promotions, AJ McKee and them aren't calling out Volkanovski, and they're not calling out Ortega. They're calling out Max Holloway because they know he's one of the greatest in the sport. But that said, I think Ortega does have the tools, to borrow a line from Tim. I think he does have the tools to beat Volkanovski. I don't think it's going to be a stoppage in either way. I think it's going to a decision. I think it's going to be a 5-round battle back and forth. I think both of them are going to be bloodied up. And I think Ortega will get the win via decision because I think if it goes to the ground, even though Volkanovski has good submission skills, that Ortega is going to be trying to throw more submissions on there. He won't just sit there, whether it's a triangle, whether it's a guillotine, whether it's a armbar, anything like he'll constantly keep moving. And if it stays standing, I think Ortega will do enough wild punches, the uppercut, the spinning elbows, the unorthodox stuff to keep the judges excited about it. So I think it'll be a razor-thin fight, but I do think Ortega is going to get that win. Brandon, what are you laughing for now? I had a legitimate reason for picking Ortega.
Thanks for taking that L once again, Mike. I'll just keep on climbing, baby. I'll just keep on climbing on the leaderboard.
You know what? Don't be laughing, Tim, because he's siding with you, and you don't have a good record with us right now.
No,
so
I do
you're
not.
picking with Tim. So what's that mean for me?
Yes.
I'm just going against Tim because I don't want a chance to win.
It's going to be a draw in that case. But no, I can see what you're saying, especially with the offensive tools. If Ortega starts landing some leg kicks and really striking during the openings, trying to land knees just before the exchanges are coming, he has a chance to win this fight. It's just a matter of the Korean Zombie fight, of how much we're measuring, how much his skills have gotten better versus how much Korean Zombie's skills have deteriorated. And I don't know what the answer is. He might have got a trillion times better, or it's just Korean Zombie is not as good as we remember him being. And I don't know what the answer is.
Well, I'll just say this, and then we'll move on. A lot of people were picking Ortega versus Max Holloway. A lot of people were on that Ortega train. It's coming off Frankie Edgar, coming off Cub Swanson and all those guys. Ortega has dominated every single person he's been in that cage with except for one. And he might be pound for pound one of the best featherweights of all time.
Pause, bro. Just let you know, Frankie Edgar was whooping that ass, and then he got caught with an uppercut. That's all I'm saying.
It was the first round, bro.
And he was getting whooped on that first round, and he got caught with an uppercut. That's all I'm saying. But hey, man, T-City, rep your boy, him, or him, rep your city. It's okay.
I don't even like Brian Ortega. I'm just picking him because I think he's gonna win the fight.
I like Brian. I like Ortega. He's nice.
I think he's kind of. I'm not gonna say nothing bad about him. I'm not a fan of his personality, but I think he's a fantastic fighter, and I'm picking Brian Ortega. Hopefully, I'm right and you guys are wrong. All right, let's talk about the co-main event. Valentina versus Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy's kind of been slowly plotting her way to the top of the division. She doesn't have a lot of fans out there, but she has been stopping people. She has been making noise, but it always seems to be a difference of levels, right? There's Shevchenko, and there's everybody else. Brandon, who you got in this fight and why?
Again, and still going with Valentina. I mean, the thing is, man, does Murphy have a chance to win this fight? Yes, there is a chance. Of course, there's always a chance in a fight. But the thing is
lucky.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, right, she can't give Valentina time. If you give Valentina time to set things up, see, read, react, is gonna be lights out for Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy has to smother her. She has to try to take her down to the ground, because I really want to say that's where Lauren Murphy's bread and butter is on the ground anyway. Yes, does Valentina have some good ground skills? Yes, we've seen it. But have you really seen it with somebody who really tried to really control her, dominate her, and stuff like that? So I just think that Valentina is just going to be too much. She's going to keep it at bay, with her strikes, and I mean, I could see a finish coming in maybe the second round.
She's coming off a split decision win against Brandon's girl JoJo, which
she lost, but it's okay. JoJo actually won that fight, but we're not going to get into that.
Not what the ref said.
Wasn't the refs, the judges? Yeah, get out of here, man.
I mean, we question MMA judging all the time, but I do think Murphy actually won that fight. But that said, it was a close fight. She had the submission win before that, which was one of the, it was on the train of when the women were all getting their first submissions, like Cyborg and Durandamy and all of them. All of a sudden, they all got their first submission because they were all piggybacking off each other. Tim, what possible way, because I think most of us are going to pick Shevchenko, what possible way can Murphy pull off an upset here?
No, good question. And here's the thing. When we list off potential game plans for fighters, we don't ever want to say stuff that this fighter has never done before, right? So do stuff, fight in a way that you've never fought before. And the thing is that she would need to strike with her, get takedowns, and stay in top position for the entire round. Right. Easier said than done. That would be the game plan. Or hang out in the clinch. But Valentina Shevchenko, I can't offer anything new. She strikes better at distance from the mid-range to close range. She goes for takedowns really well with trips. She's just head and shoulders above everyone else in the division, and that's not her fault in any way. But yeah, Lauren Murphy probably getting finished.
It is her fault.
It's totally her fault.
She's that damn good.
She shouldn't have been so good. But yeah, I think Lauren Murphy's going to be, TKO second round for Valentina Shevchenko. Unfortunately, I don't think Lauren Murphy's game planning will be strong enough in this fight.
Well, before Brandon jumps down my throat, I'm picking Shevchenko 100%, 110%. There's no question. But if I am playing devil's advocate, I think the only way Murphy can have a chance is if she does what Jennifer Maia did, or what even Liz Carmouche did, kind of dirty it up with her a little bit, grab her, hold her, do some roughhousing with Valentina. Don't let Valentina do what she wants to do. Because we saw against Andrade, Valentina can easily go to the ground if she wants to dominate you on the ground. Like, Andrade still to this day is like, I don't know what happened. I didn't expect her to take me down. And Valentina took her down repeatedly and just dominated Andrade on the ground when nobody really knew that was coming. Valentina is a complete mixed martial artist. Like, complete. Striking, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. The woman can do everything and do it great. You know, seems to be like the theme of this show is like, you're great, but then there's that one person you can't top. Like, we obviously know the Amanda Nunes story. But at 125 pounds, there's nobody who's been able to touch her. Maya roughed her up a little bit, took it to a decision. Carmouche roughed her up a little bit, grabbed her, held her, took it to a decision. Was Shevchenko ever in danger of losing either one of those fights? No, it was an easy decision. But they did last, which is kind of almost a win against Shevchenko, right? If you can last. I think Murphy's a little bit more ballsy, and I think she's going to make a mistake and go for a knockout or go for a takedown or something like that, and she's going to get hurt. Because I just feel like there's levels to this, and I think, if anything, I think Shevchenko at this point is proving things to herself, not necessarily to her opponents. I think she's out there to see what can I do this time that make everybody go wow. Because she might not say it, she may say all the right things in public. She really does want that Amanda trilogy, and that she knows that's the last big payday coming for her career. And we know there's a lot of good young fighters in that division that we've talked about, the Barbers, the Mavericks, the so on and so forth. But they're probably a couple years away. They're not knocking on the door. So I am picking Shevchenko. And now this fight is definitely the one I think we could all three be completely different about, because we don't know what to expect out of Nick Diaz, right? Nick Diaz has been gone for 6 years. He had the suspension for weed. It was supposed to be a 5-year ban, got dropped down to, I believe, 18 months. We haven't seen him since. Robbie Lawler, in that time period, became a champion. He lost the belt, and then he's kind of fell off the last couple fights. We don't know what to expect out of Robbie. We do know that neither guy is going to back down. We do know it's going to be straightforward. They fought in 3 times. Both guys have knocked each other out. I think the first time they fought was way back in like 2004 or something like that.
2004.
It's been 209 months since they last fought.
200.
Yeah. That was the second fight where Diaz knocked Robbie out. So they both knocked each other out.
No, this is the second fight.
This is the second fight. They only fought one time.
Didn't they fight back in? No. Didn't Robbie win the first one?
They've only had one fight.
I think it was a trilogy.
You might be thinking of Nick Diaz somehow had a trilogy with Jeremy Jackson in his first 10 fights.
Well, I'm going to look it up to see how I'm wrong. But, guys, I do remember the last time when Lawler got knocked out by Diaz in Strikeforce. Mm-hmm. Tim, go ahead and start. Tell me what to expect in this one after not seeing Diaz for a very long time.
Well, Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler fought on UFC 47, which was the first time that Tito and Chuck fought. And this was so long ago. Guess who fought on the undercard? First of all, Japanese pop star Genki Suda was fighting on this fight event. And current day coach Mike Thomas Brown was fighting on this card. That's how old this fight was. Nick Diaz was 20 years old at the time, which means he wasn't even old enough to drink while he was fighting in Las Vegas. Nick Diaz has had a storied career where nothing can ever be plain. He's created headlines with the fight with Takanori Gomi. Even the Sherdog interview after that was an important thing. He had hospital fights with Joe Riggs, and he also had some of the most exciting fights of all time with guys like Paul Daly, Caro Parisian, Diego Sanchez. The thing is, I
swore they fought in Strikeforce, but I guess I'm wrong.
No. I mean, so Robbie did have some good Strikeforce fights where he knocked out Melvin Manhoff. That was really good, and Matt Lindland, but they never did fight. Robbie Lawler had some of the greatest wars in MMA history with guys like Johnny Hendricks, Carlos Condit, and of course, Rory McDonald. It's tough to compare because I always want to do evidence-based analyzing based on the last person's fight. So Robbie Lawler doesn't look that good because he fought earlier last year against guys like Neil Magny and Colby Covington, so I know he's not looking amazing. Nick Diaz hasn't fought in 6 years. I can assume that he's going to be an old man in this fight, but I don't know that for certain. If both of these guys were in their prime, I think I would pick Nick Diaz because if you really put a lot of pressure on Robbie Lawler, he doesn't always respond well and he doesn't always counter well. If you give him space to respond, he will respond. But if you're a smotherer like Nick Diaz, you're probably just going to keep smothering him for the whole fight. But I don't know what to expect out of this fight as both of them are so advanced in age. Just today, we got the announcement that due to Nick Diaz's request, this has moved to 185 pounds. That doesn't bode well for you. That doesn't sound like you're staying in shape or that you were in the gym. I don't entirely know what that means. This could be a really sad, embarrassing fight, or it could be something great. Officially, I'll pick Nick Diaz, but I do not know for certain.
Brandon, you could probably attest to this more than both Tim and I. As far as the 185-pound thing, which I had heard rumors, I didn't know was factual until just now. I mean, I'm assuming the older you get, the harder it is to cut the weight, right? Like, you think you have a smooth weight cut, and sometimes it just doesn't go right.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. I mean, or it could be that because he hasn't done it in so long.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes it takes a while to get back into the swing of things. You know, so I'm saying, so going all the way down to 170, because even his last fight that I want to say that Nick Diaz had in the UFC was his fight against Anderson Silva, which was at 185. So which means he hasn't fought at 170 in a really long time. So I'm
sorry, real quick. Tim, who was your pick in this fight?
Nick, okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah. So I mean, so going down to 170, it was harder. It was harder than he thought. He couldn't do it. So he was like, hey, I'm not going to make 170. Can we just do 185? So.
So what do you expect out of this fight?
To be honest with you, like, I really don't know what to expect. I'm picking Robbie Lawler. The reason why I'm picking Robbie Lawler is just because he's been more active. I mean, you just go back to the Diaz's last fight against Anderson Silva. It was really uneventful. It did have some funny moments, a couple of memes there, but he lost that fight anyway. But then it became a no contest because Anderson Silva popped. They
both popped.
It's true. And I just go back to his brother, Nate Diaz. He's been inactive. Who's he fight? Leon Edwards. Everybody's thinking that, Nate Diaz is going to do his thing. No, Nate Diaz got his butt whooped except for 1 minute of that fight. So I could really see the same thing happening again this time with Robbie Lawler. And again, Robbie Lawler, yes, he's had his ups and downs last couple of fights. He too has switched camps. He's no longer with ATT. He's now with Sanford. So he too is trying to get into the swing of things with, new coaches, new partners, everything like that. But to me, man, Robbie Lawler just knows how to fight. He knows how to go out there, throw them things. Nick Diaz, Diaz is going to do the same thing. That's all he does. He likes to box too. But I think Robbie Lawler has the power. And also, like I said, I think just Robbie Lawler has just been more active. And I just think he's going to get his hand raised.
I think it's a tale of two worlds. If we look back at Strikeforce, Nick Diaz was the man. He was running through everything. And Robbie actually struggled a lot in Strikeforce. He fought a lot of marquee fights, but he lost most of them. It wasn't until he got that second life when he came back to the UFC that Robbie went on that huge run. And other than the loss to Johnny Hendricks, like, he was dominating all the way up to the welterweight championship. I mean, we talk about age. Ironically, Robbie is the older fighter by a year. Nick is 38. And he doesn't have the wear and tear on his body. And you talk about being out of shape, Tim, but he has been, Ironman, triathlon. I don't think it's a matter of being in shape. I think it's a matter of maybe being in MMA shape, because we all know there's certain muscles you use during certain sports. Michael Jordan famously, when he came back from baseball to play basketball, he was in what they call baseball shape, right? And he had to get back in basketball shape. Was he still a good basketball player? Yeah, he was still one of the best in the world, but he wasn't Michael Jordan. I'm not comparing Nick Diaz to Michael Jordan because he did basically lose his last 3 fights. But at the same time, Nick Diaz, Nate Diaz, they have their army, they have their fans for a reason. These guys bring the fight. I don't think whether he's completely out of shape, fat, sitting on the couch, I think he'd still come in and fight 5 rounds and go toe-to-toe with anybody. Robbie Lawler hasn't looked that great. He couldn't figure Magny out. I believe he got knocked out the fight before that, if I'm not wrong. He lost the decision to Covington, but then he got choked out by Ben Askren. Like, he hasn't looked good his last few fights. Age is definitely seeming to catch up to him. He's been in a lot of wars. I know Brandon gets mad when I talk about age of fighters, but Robbie Lawler might be 39, but he has a body probably of a 50-year-old because he's been in wars. Like, he's taken a lot of punishment, and he's given a lot of punishment. I don't know who to pick in this fight, only because, like, in activity, what has Nick Diaz really been training? Has he been just doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling? Has he been doing his boxing? Is Robbie Lawler at 185 pounds, sorry for hitting the camera, 185 pounds, that much bigger and stronger to have a puncher's chance to knock him out? I'm going to pick Robbie Lawler in this fight only because of the activity. And like we saw with Nate Diaz, like, you can have a round but do you have enough to finish a fight? And I think if Robbie wins four of the rounds, it really won't matter what Nick Diaz does one round. So I'm going to pick Robbie Lawler in that fight. Now is the time that we go and pick our extra fight picks, something to look out for on this epic pay-per-view. Tim, I'll start with you. What fight are you looking forward to, and who's going to win it?
Curtis Blades versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
I was looking hard at that fight.
How good is that matchup? That could be a headliner on any ESPN card. Two guys in the top 10 at heavyweight. For my money, this is a little bit of a classic wrestler versus striker matchup. And I'm going to be picking Curtis Blades in this one. But this is definitely one to watch for the future because one of these guys is going to be likely competing for a title shot once the heavyweight division top three kind of clears up there. But yeah, Curtis Blades versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik, great matchup.
It's kind of a last chance for either one to be like a top contender in that division because if either one loses, they might fall back down.
Yeah.
Brandon, what's your fight pick of the night?
You know what it is, man. I'm going with the ladies' fights. Again, of course, going to go with, was it Manon Farrell versus Myra Bueno Silva. And I'm going with Farrell to get this W, man. Homegirl's just been on a beast ever since she came to the UFC. I think she's finished her last two fights with the knockouts. So I think he's gonna collect another scalp this Saturday. That's
going to be another competitive fight. Both girls are 7-1. Both girls bring the fire. I think if Silva gets a hold of her, I think Farah's going to have some trouble. But if she keeps it standing, like you said, every fight starts standing. So should be a fun fight. My fight pick, I'm picking Marlon Moraes versus Merab Dvalishvili. And I picked the fight, but I don't know who's going to win. I just picked it because I think it's going to be such an interesting clash of styles. Like, I'm going to pick I'm going to pick Merab. I can always butcher his last name. I'm going to pick Merab because of his wrestling. I feel like if he grabs you, it's over. And Moraes has struggled a little bit with people that can grab him. The problem is Marlon has such great striking that he can catch you from anywhere. We go all the way back to World Series of Fighting. He's a very dynamic striker, flying knees, kicks, punches, anything everywhere. He hits you at different angles. And we've seen Merab get rocked before in fights too. His last couple fights, he's been rocked. But once he grabs you, once he takes you down, it's game over. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think eventually by the second or third round, he's going to wear him out and win that fight. Whether a decision or a stoppage in the third round, I think Merab will eventually take the win. But, man, I'm just pumped up to see that fight. I think it's just a great matchup of different skill sets. And it's like striker versus grappler, who's going to win. And it's always a fun thing when you get different skill sets kind of going at it at the highest of levels. And from Merab's point of view, if he wins, he's in that picture of the people talking about for title shots. Maybe not directly, but he's definitely in the top, next two or three guys in line. So going to be a fun fight. Before we get out of here, guys, any other last thoughts on UFC 266, Tim?
I got nothing. You're absolutely right with the Marlon Moraes fight. That men's bantamweight is so flipping good. That is a great match up there. I'm excited for that one.
Brandon?
Man, there should be a good night of fights. I think I was just looking at it. Yeah, I'm kind of looking to see what's going to happen with Carl Roberson. He's kind of been up and down on his UFC path. Like I said, he came in like hot cakes, but then lately he's kind of fizzled out. So, I mean, hopefully he gets a W this Saturday, but I kind of eager to see what happens with him.
Of course, we can't break down the entire card. That would take forever. We'll leave that for shows like Tim's Calf Kick Sports to break down the whole thing. But of course, Dan Hooker's back in action.
It's a great fight.
Kind of playing gatekeeper against Nasrat. You got Andrade versus Cavillo. That's going to be another fun matchup for the ladies. See if Andrade can bounce back. You got Carl Roberson. You got Smellsberger back in action. Pearson Morales. Medic's trying to stay undefeated against Jalen Turner. Mata Ferry's back in action. She's always fun fight going against the very talented Santos. So we'll see some of that. Chris Daukaus, a heavyweight war. I was always going to pick that Shamil Daukaus fight because I just think I think he's knocking on that door. I think he's 1 or 2 wins away from being a guy we're talking about in the heavyweight division for a very long time. I think Chris Daukaus is is one of the best all-round fighters. Very similar skill set to me than Cyril Gane as far as the way he moves, the way he can get to every position. And I think people slip on Daukaus because he doesn't have the name value. But coming from CFFC, we've seen him fight for a long time. I think he's definitely knocking on the door. So that's our thoughts on UFC 266. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for celebrating 50 episodes with us. It is our 1-year anniversary. I did think about popping a little bit of bubbly, but I didn't want to make this a 21 and over show and get YouTube to censor us. So I just stuck to the Dr. Pepper. Thank you, Dr. Pepper. Feel free to sponsor the show. We don't have any sponsors. We'd love to have you. Make sure you tune in to Fighters First Network, fightersfirst.shop. We got our latest merchandise. Even with the legendary shirts kind of on hold for right now, there is a ton of new shirts. I'm putting new stuff out all the time. A lot of graphic tees. Obviously, the Mechanic Collection, Brandon's shirts are fire. We're talking to Tim about maybe doing a couple things with the network here and there. He's got his own amazing network building, so we'd love to collab with him. Make sure you tune in to Calf Kick Sports, MMA Sucker, and all the places you can find the great Tim Wheaton. Of course, he's posting content religiously around the clock. I love that interview with Ong. I love the Frank Shamrock interview was money, so congratulations on that one.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Anything you want to say before we get out of here, Tim?
No, yeah. Check me out, Tim Wheaton MMA. I mean, I got so much stuff everywhere. You can find me on anything. I'm on all of the things.
All of the things. Brandon, any words to celebrate 1 year of doing this thing?
Yeah, man, just I want to say thank you, man, for always, for inviting me, for including me in this. Like I said, I really didn't know what to expect when we started this. But, yeah, man, it's been a good time, man. I love talking fights. Love how we get to throw in, a little bit of kickboxing in here, time to time. So it's all good. Let's just keep it going.
1 year has been a very long time in the world of MMA, especially in the world of this show. It's a completely different world between now and last September. Of course, we started this show with me, Brandon, and Sergio Da Silva every single week up until December, when unfortunately we lost our friend Sergio. You see him on the bottom of the episode every single week. He's always in our hearts. Shout out to the Da Silva family. We're always thinking about Sergio. He always comes across one way or the other. But it wasn't just me and Brandon. And Tim, if you can bear with me for a second, like a little diatribe. It wasn't just me and Brandon and Sergio. We had people like Pure Evil's Eddie Vallejo joining us early on. We had people like Shorty Rock, Sean Santella. We had Bradley Desir jump on for a couple episodes. We had the tribute episode for Sergio once he passed with people like David Fish, Chris Perez, of course, Jonathan Webb. Brad Desir was there, Brandon, myself. We had video inserts from Jared Gordon. Sorry, butchering that. Jared Gordon. And even our own, one of our founders of Art of MMA, Eric Johnson, has chimed in from time to time. We, of course, would be remiss if we didn't say thank you to Dan Bakley. Of course, Cage My IQ on Fighters First Network doing his thing, just like Tim, constantly pumping out content all week long. Dan's been a big part of this show over this 2021 year, along with Tim, who's jumped in from time to time with us, and we always appreciative of his time. I just want to say thank you to the fans at home who keep tuning in, and we keep doing this thing. Some episodes get a lot of views, some don't. But the diehards, especially on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, that constantly share our content and engage with us. I think I'm speaking for Brandon as well as myself. We want to say thank you. Keep liking, keep subscribing, keep commenting. I shouldn't have to do a giveaway to get a bunch of people involved. So we do love you guys. Congratulations to the winners. The 3 winners we announced, Shannon Kelly, Valerie Morris, and Zalika Watley. I will reach out to you on your comment on the YouTube comments from last week. Get back in touch with me or shoot me an email if you're watching this, mg@fightersfirst.shop. It's at the bottom of every show description. And let me know who you are. Let me know what shirt you want and what you pick. I will have a way of verifying that. So not just any random stranger can ask for a free shirt. But I will reach out to you 3. Thank you so much for participating last week. We'll try to do another giveaway. And I saved it last. I want to let you know this week to celebrate our 50th episode, use the promo code 50th episode. I'll put it in the description below and save 15% all this week to help us celebrate at fightersfirst.shop. Tim, thank you for joining us. Brandon, as always, it's been a fun ride. We're looking forward to more episodes and continuing this ride and the growth of everything, Art of MMA, Fighters First, and all that stuff. Check out Brandon's episode of Unfiltered. It is on right now, airing on our YouTube channel, so check that out. Guys, I think that's a wrap. Anything else? All right. For Tim Wheaton, for the mechanic, Brandon Catino, I'm Mike Inn. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. We're out.